And so last week we talked a little bit about how we sellers are giving more concessions when it comes to repairs. They're being more flexible than before.
Right.
I don't see a lot of prices coming down like we said last week, but it's more about concession, more flexibility about doing repairs after the inspections and things like that. One of the things that I seen is we do the inspection, there's some repairs to be done, and we do an agreement. We create an addendum and we request the repairs or a credit, whatever the case it is. Let's, for the sake of an example, let's use the repairs, right? We ask them to do a repair. So we do the addendum, everybody sign it, and then the appraisal happen. And the appraiser go over there and notice and sees that some repairs needs to be done. And in order for him to approve the appraiser, right, those repairs needs to be done before closing.
Right.
No questions asked. So, do you think it is advisable before send the appraisal? And I think a lot of lenders do that. I'm pretty sure you're one of them who do that. Is you ask the realtor if you can send the appraiser.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's critical, Tony, because there's a couple of reasons for it. Number one, so just to kind of bring everybody up to speed on the process, if they've never bought a home, is once that property goes under contract, you put your contract on it, put your earnest money down, you have a home inspection done. Well, leading up to that time, I've asked you for updated pay stubs, updated bank statements, whatever documentation we need for the mortgage, but we haven't ordered your appraisal yet because we want to know, number one, once that home inspection is done, we want to know that you're still buying that house because I've had 2 deals in the past 3 weeks that fell apart due to home inspection. And one of them, I think we talked about last week, and that was that the seller agreed to do all the things that the buyer wanted, but the buyer just said, it's just too much. There's too much wrong with it. I'm backing out. So if I had already ordered an appraisal for that buyer, well, he's not getting his money back. So appraisals aren't cheap. You're talking anywhere from $500 to $750 for an appraisal. And so that would be terrible for me to have spent that man's money before we know that that contract's going through. And so that's one of the reasons that we wait to order the appraisal until the home inspection's been done and all of the repairs have been negotiated. But the other reason is because there's repairs to be negotiated. And so if it's a major repair, a lot of times a buyer will say, I want to make sure that the seller has done this repair and that it's been done correctly. So we'll have the appraiser go back out and re-inspect the property to make sure that the repair has been done. Now, depending on the loan type, whether it's a conventional or FHA or VA loan, the appraiser is not necessarily going to speak to the quality of the workmanship of the repair.
Correct.
Just the repair has been done or the repair has not been done. And so, but there are some things like on a government loan, an FHA, VA, USDA loan, where the appraiser is going to be looking at those repairs and to say, especially if it's a safety related issue, that the appraiser would look at that and say, this has still not been done adequately. It needs to be this way or that way, whatever it needs to be to make it where it's safe.
I've seen those on the VA and FHA, especially when we need handrails. There's certain height, there's certain dimensions that it needs to be done that we probably see it like it's not needed, but an FHA and VA appraiser will require handrails. And I
Yeah.
think a very good agent, a knowledgeable agent, and somebody who has done VAs and FHA will foresee those things when they list it and when they receive an offer. If I receive an offer that is an FHA or a VA, I know that we can pass. So by the time I do the listing, and one of the questions they ask us that we have to put on the MLS is like the type of financing. It can be cash, FHA, VA. So if you put FHA and VA, make sure it's going to pass.
Right.
You may have a couple little things that you oversee, nothing big. But when it comes to safety, and I use the handrail example because that has happened to us a couple times.
Yeah.
And my seller didn't want it to believe that we needed a handrail going the stairways down to the basement. And I'm like, you have to do it. It's not going to pass. And sure enough, it didn't. It was a VA loan that we did. So he has to put the handrail and do a couple other things that he didn't want to do it. And I'm like, you have to do it if you accept this offer. And finally, I was, right. And that's when you get a good agent will let you know that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing. It seems like you and I touch on this every single video that we do, but that line of communication between the loan officer and the realtor is crucial. It's just crucial to making a deal go smoothly for a buyer and even for the seller. So in this case, you're working with a buyer and you're not dealing with the seller. But if you and I are communicating the way we should be communicating, it makes things better for the buyer. But then it also helps you to be able to get with the listing agent so that the listing agent can communicate with the seller. And it just makes a transaction just so much smoother.
Make it easy. And back to your point about sending the appraiser back, we had a transaction. I had a client, this will happen like 3 months ago. And one of the conditions to buy the property was a new roof. And we let the lender know, she was using their own lender. And we let them know, I called them, I sent an email and say, hey, one of the conditions in the agreements is that the seller is going to put a new roof before we close. So don't send the appraiser, right? I never hear a reply. I never hear anything. So back to the communication part. Sure enough, they send the appraiser and the appraiser came back and say, we need 2 plugs and we need a new roof because the roof won't happen.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why do you send the appraiser? I'll ask you not to because we're going to get the roof done. And the only delay we had was because it was raining. But other than that, the roof was going to be done. And we wanted to send the appraiser after because they have to pay double. This is money coming out of the buyer's pocket. So you don't want to pay $700 twice. That's $1,400. That's a lot of money, my friend.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know if you had any experience like that.
Yeah, that is. So typically, when we send an appraiser back out to inspect a property after the initial appraisal's been done, that reinspection is anywhere from $175 to $225 to get it reinspected. But I've been involved in a lot of transactions where the buyer only has $175 to $225 to spare after we go to closing. And so it's critical that, that we price these things out correctly and try not to spend the buyer's money, if we can help it. And so, yeah, that's happened before. I'll tell you this, Tony, because I've asked this question a couple of times of different appraisers, or 2 different appraisers. And the question I asked is, if a sales contract calls for a repair to be done, are you, the appraiser, going to condition the appraisal for that repair to be done if it's not been completed when you go to inspect the property? And every single one of them have told me yes. So in writing that addendum to the sales contract after the home inspection is done, that's very important in how that's written. And technically, legally, that's part of the contract. And if the appraisal has not been done by that point in time, then I'm legally required to send that addendum to the appraiser. So now the appraiser says, oh, hey, the contract addendum is calling for the roof to be replaced. I need to condition the appraisal for the roof to be replaced.
Correct.
And so that can oftentimes create a delay in closing because the appraiser has to go back out to reinspect the property once the repair has been done. And just like your situation where the weather was not friendly or conducive to doing a roof repair, then now we've got a situation where that roof job gets pushed back. And a lot of times, as you think about it as a buyer, put yourself in the seller's shoes. If you were selling that house and the buyer wanted you to repair the roof or replace the roof, you are going to want to know that that buyer is approved for their mortgage and that they can close on that property.
Correct.
And so with that being the case, then it is often a situation where that roof repair is not, or roof replacement is not going to take place until very late into the transaction. Often a day, 2 days, 3 days before closing. And so we've got to make sure that that roof repair is going to be done in enough time for us to send the appraiser back out to inspect the property. So I actually had a situation that came up here recently where the appraiser did not condition the appraisal for the roof repair to be done. I'd gotten a verbal from the buyer that, hey, we're trying to negotiate a few things, but I'm buying the house. So from that point in time, once I get a verbal, I order the appraisal.
Correct.
Well, the appraiser goes out before the repair addendum had been negotiated between the buyer and the seller. And the buyer and the seller negotiated for the seller to put on a new roof. Well, the appraiser had already done an inspection, so he did not condition the appraisal for a new roof. But the underwriter, because we are required to give that addendum to the underwriter sees it and says, well, hey, this addendum states that there's to be a new roof put on, and I need you, Andy, to prove to me that the roof has been installed before we close. So I asked the underwriter, because normally what we would do is we would have the appraiser reinspect that property to make sure the roof has been replaced. But the underwriter told me, just get me an addendum to the contract, because that roof repair is not a condition of the appraisal. So the appraiser is not even involved in this roof repair situation. But if you get me an addendum to the contract that's signed by the buyer, by the seller, and by both real estate agents who you and I know are putting their license on the line, stating that this repair has, or this roof replacement's been done, the underwriter said, I'll accept that. So in this case, the buyer didn't have to pay that extra cost to have the appraiser go back out. So, you know, it's just, this is a very interesting business, and the timing of things and how things take place can oftentimes make the transaction smooth. It could throw a little twist into it to where this transaction was different than the last one that we did because of the timing.
The timing is important, and that was a good thing. Now, I want to see it to the other, in a different point of view.
Okay.
Putting a new roof in a house, that increases the value of the house right away. So, and having the appraiser recognizing that make the value more legit per se. So the buyer is, buying something with equity already.
Yeah.
So in this case, that it was not a condition for the appraiser, and the roof it was going to put on. Probably somebody's going to be asking, like, is that going to increase the value of the house or not? Am I having an instant, I forgot the word, money in it,
Yeah. Yeah.
And equity, instant equity in it. And the answer is yes, regardless if it's conditioned or not by the appraiser, you're still gaining equity on it by having that roof in it, because you need to get the receipts. And if you're the buyer, make sure that your agent requests those receipts. And if it's a warranty on it, make sure that warranty is transferable.
That's a great point. That is a great point.
It's simple as that. You don't want to have a surprise that 3 months down the line, it start raining and then you start having leaks and there's no warranty, there's nobody to call, and then you're going to have to, do those repair on your own dime.
Yeah.
So make sure when things like that happen, we all are excited because it's going to be a smooth transaction and we're going to get close and the buyer's going to get the house they want and they like, and the seller is finally going to be able to move on. But those little details are important when you're purchasing a home. Make sure you get a warranty for the roof and that the warranty is transferable.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I think a lot of buyers would be wise to take note of that.
Yeah, it's very important. It's like I say, little details make a big difference, and communication make a big difference. Unfortunately, for these buyers that I have, they have to pay extra for the pressure to go back over there when we knew it shouldn't have happened. I know if I would have done this deal with you, that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Unfortunately, my buyer had another lender, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to say who the lender is because, take me to the moon.
So let me ask you this question. So in a situation like that, where maybe the home inspection says the life of the roof is limited, and your buyer says, I would like for the seller to replace the roof, how are you as a realtor typically just trying to negotiate a dollar amount to go towards a roof? Are you getting 1 quote, 3 quotes, 5 quotes for a roof, and then coming up with a dollar amount? How are you approaching that?
On a case like that, the way I do it is pretty simple. Get me at least 2 quotes.
Okay.
If I can get 3, much better. How much will be the cost to replace that roof? Not to repair it, to replace it, because the life of the roof is, 3-5 years left. And based on that, we can make the option, depends on the buyer what they want to do. We can ask for a credit repair. Or usually I rather negotiate a little bit of a lot of things. If we can reduce the price, if the buyer has the money to pay for the roof replacement.
Right. Yeah.
You have to think about that. And sometimes if it's worth to reduce the price or not. If your payment is just going to be $50 difference, reducing that price because of the roof, Is that worth it or not? I'd rather have the seller pay for the roof.
Yeah.
And that's how I negotiate it. I get my 3 quotes, and then we decide what we want to do. We want the seller to pay for the roof. You want to negotiate closing costs. Maybe your closing costs are $15,000, and
Mhm.
replacing the roof is going to be 10,000. So we can, negotiate the seller to pay those $10,000 on closing costs, and you come out with five out of your pocket to pay the 15. You name it. It gives you an edge to negotiate,
Yeah.
and also at the same time communicate again with the lender and say, "Hey, listen, we need to replace the roof. We want to do this. This is the three options. Have the seller pay it, ask for a price reduction, or ask for closing costs. If it comes to the price reduction, Andy, it's going to be worth it. Ask $15,000 reduction on my monthly payment or not."
Most of the time it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the mistake that a lot of people does is ask for a price reduction. I will say that only work when you pay in cash.
Right. Right.
You pay in cash, yes, ask for as much reduction as you can get if you're going to take care of those repairs. If not, let's ask for the closing costs.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people don't understand, most buyers don't understand that for every $1,000 that they reduce their mortgage amount, it's only saving them about $6.25 to $6.50 per $1,000 that they're reducing the price, or excuse me, that the loan amount's being reduced.
The loan amount, correct.
So, yeah, that in a situation like that, instead of taking $5,000 reduction on the price, have or ask the seller to pay $5,000 towards your closing cost, and you keep $5,000 in your own pocket. That's the better
Exactly.
way of handling that, in my opinion.
In my opinion, it is also, and if any repair that needs to be done with those $5,000, let's say it's painting. Now you can paint whatever color you want. You can do the house. Finally, you can make it your home, your own
Right.
taste, your own flavor on the house. It's going to be a home. So we agree on that. I prefer asking the seller to pay for the closing costs, most definitely.
Yeah.
Is more cost effective. Again, like I say, unless you're buying cash, then it makes sense to reduce the price.
Absolutely. It's still a dollar for dollar credit in that case.
Yeah, it's dollar for dollar. Yeah. So that's what I got for today, Andy. Anything else you want to add to it?
I don't think so. I think it's a great topic. And I think that, a topic like this to me, I think really kind of highlights the value of a good real estate agent. And so many sellers will say, I'm thinking about selling my house for sale by owner. How hard is it to sell your house? I'm in sales. I sell machine parts every single day, or I sell medical equipment every single day. I can sell something better than any real estate agent. Well, that might be true. It might be. But can you handle and negotiate all of the little details that a realtor handles from the time that contract is signed until it goes to closing? And that's the big question mark. Realtors, in my opinion, they're not salespeople. What they are handlers.
Correct.
They have to handle buyers. They have to handle sellers. They have to handle mortgage people. They have to handle closing attorneys and title people and appraisers and surveyors and home inspectors. And the list could go on and on and on. So anyway,
I'm always telling, are you willing to sell your house without putting your feelings in it?
that's a great
That's the
way to put
question
it.
I always ask. Are you willing to sell your house without getting your feelings involved in the sale?
Yeah.
Especially if it's the house where you raise your kids. So
Yeah.
something you have to think about it and, ready to negotiate without putting your feelings in it and use more the logic. Because if you put your feelings in it, you're probably going to end up losing money.
Yeah.
That's why you need professionals. Definitely, that's the way I see it. It's saying with the loans, I rather you use somebody local to you, that's somebody from another state, somebody one of those mortgages online or anything like that, because the interaction, person to person interaction, is better. And like Andy, he is somebody that's gonna sit with you and explain the whole process properly.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that, man. And I really appreciate those kind words that you're saying, Andy, towards us, the realtors. A lot of people think that we only open doors, but not really. It's a lot more that we do.
Way more. There's way more to it.
Hi, Andy. If people wants to buy a house, they need to get qualified. They need to get a loan.
Yeah.
And you're the man to do that. So how can they reach you?
I can be reached at 205-979-4412. I'm at extension 1. How
Perfect.
about you? When I'm done with them, how can they
Well,
contact you?
when you're done with them, they just can call me, 205-370-3248. My name is Tony Alvarez, and I with Keller Williams Hoover, and I'll be more than happy to help you guys find that house for you. And if you have any question, just leave it on the comments. We look at it, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions on the next episode. So thank you again, Andy. Thank you for being with us. A pleasure seeing you.
Thank you, Tony. Good to see you too.
See you next week.
All right.